1854. Sultan Abdülmecid sits in the Topkapi Palace watching his empire crumble. Russian troops occupy Ottoman territory. The Crimean War drains resources faster than his treasury can supply them. His tax collectors are corrupt. His records are fraudulent. His currency has collapsed. For centuries, Ottoman sultans refused foreign loans. They considered it surrender. They viewed external debt as abandoning sovereignty. But Abdülmecid has no choice. He needs £3 million. The British and French promise military support if he'll take their money. He signs the contract. The Ottoman Empire takes its first foreign loan at 6% interest. The bonds sell at 80% of face value. Within 2 decades, the empire owes more than any nation in human history. And within 40 years, Europeans control a third of Ottoman tax revenue, manage the empire's most profitable monopolies, and dictate financial policy from an office in Constantinople. The Sultan still sits on his throne, but foreigners collect his money. This isn't about military defeat. This isn't about external conquest. This is what happens when an empire borrows from its creditors instead of building its economy. When a government confuses access to capital with actual prosperity. When a nation discovers too late that financial dependence is just another form of colonization. The war that changed everything, 1853. Tsar Nicholas I sends troops into Ottoman territory. The Russians claim they're protecting Orthodox Christians. Everyone knows they want Constantinople. The British and French can't allow it. A Russian-controlled Bosphorus threatens their Mediterranean interests. They need the Ottoman Empire weak enough to manipulate, but strong enough to block Russia. Sultan Abdülmecid delays declaring war. He needs allies first. By October, Britain and France pledge support. The Allies push Russian forces back. But the war costs a fortune. Ottoman military spending far exceeds the empire's 7.5 million lira annual budget. The Sultan faces a choice: debase the currency again or borrow from Europe. For centuries, Ottoman rulers avoided foreign debt. When Sultan Mehmed II took the throne in 1808, 1 British pound bought 19 pisters. By his death in 1839, the exchange rate had collapsed to 106 pesters per pound. The government issued paper currency called Kaimi in 1840 with 12.5% interest. It functioned more like bonds than banknotes. But even this wasn't enough. The Crimean War forces Abdülmecid to cross the line his predecessors never dared. In 1854, he takes a £3 million loan at 6% interest. The bonds sell for 80% of face value. The British endorse it, but don't guarantee it. A second loan follows. Then, in 1855, the first officially guaranteed foreign loan arrives. £5 million backed by Britain and France. The empire receives actual support from the powers that will eventually control its finances. The pattern establishes itself. The Crimean War ends in 1856. The Ottoman Empire wins. Russian ambitions are checked. Territory is preserved. But the precedent is set. The empire has tasted foreign capital, and the addiction begins immediately. 1858. Another loan. £5 million at 76% issue price and 6% interest. No Western government backs this one. The terms are worse. The empire takes it anyway. The money is supposedly for redeeming paper currency. It gets spent on other things. 1862. Abdülmecid dies. His successor, Abdülaziz, continues borrowing. A formal budget appears for the first time. European advisors arrive. The Ottoman Bank transforms into a state institution in 1863 and becomes the Banque Impériale Ottomane. It gains authority to issue banknotes, but no real control over government spending. Its presence reassures foreign investors without imposing actual discipline. The loans accelerate. £8 million in 1863 at 71% issue price, $6 million in 1865 at 66%. The government uses new loans to pay off old debts to Galata bankers, wealthy merchant families who financed Ottoman rulers for centuries. The cycle becomes self-perpetuating. Borrow to repay. Borrow to repay. The debt grows every year. Between 1854 and 1874, the empire signs 15 foreign loan agreements. Additional loans come in 1858, 1860, 1862, 1863, 1865, and every single year from 1869 through 1874. The terms get progressively worse. Interest rates exceed 6% on most loans. Some reach 10% or higher. When the government can't repay on time, rumors of bankruptcy spread. Ottoman bonds become difficult to sell. The empire borrows more to service existing debt. The nominal total reaches £240 million by the mid-1870s. But the empire never sees anything close to that amount. Commissions consume massive percentages. Bonds sell below face value. From 1854 to 1874, the empire borrows 238 million liras in gold, but receives only 127 million. Nearly half disappears to fees, discounts, and banker profits. Nobody invests this money productively. Palace construction absorbs enormous sums. Bureaucratic expansion continues. Military spending persists. But almost nothing goes toward infrastructure that generates revenue. No factories, no modern agriculture, no technological development. The Ottoman economy produces the same goods using the same methods. Revenue doesn't grow. The debt does. The crisis. Nobody could ignore. 1873. Global financial markets collapse. The Panic of 1873 depresses economies across Europe. Credit freezes. Ottoman access to new loans vanishes. The empire's financial situation becomes desperate. Natural disasters compound the crisis. Droughts ravage Ottoman territory in 1873. Floods follow in 1874 and 1875. Harvests fail. Peasants starve. Tax revenue collapses. The government tries to distribute food to prevent mass famine. This costs money the treasury doesn't have. By 1874, even Galata bankers refuse to lend. The government offers 25% interest. They still decline. The empire's creditworthiness has completely evaporated. Annual debt service exceeds £12 million. Total government revenue is $21.7 million. More than half of everything the empire collects goes to interest payments. Palace intrigues distract attention from the looming catastrophe. Sultan Abdulaziz spends lavishly while the treasury empties. Political attention focuses everywhere except the debt crisis barreling toward them. October 6th, 1875. The empire announces it will pay debts half in cash and half in 5% treasury bonds. It's a partial default disguised as restructuring. The amount involved is £214.5 million, 10 times the empire's annual revenue. The entire debt structure collapses. European bondholders are outraged. Many are middle-class British and French investors who put their savings into Ottoman bonds, expecting reliable returns. Their investment has evaporated. They demand their governments intervene. Newspapers publish angry letters. Political pressure builds. The British and French governments can't ignore the crisis. 1877 makes everything worse. The Russo-Turkish War drains whatever resources remain. Russian armies push Ottoman forces back to the gates of Constantinople. A British fleet intervenes to prevent the capital's capture. The Treaty of Berlin in 1878 reduces Ottoman territory dramatically. The empire loses tax base, it loses population, it loses revenue sources. The debt remains. By 1877, the government can't pay civil servants. Soldiers go without wages. The empire is functionally bankrupt, but the debt still exists. The creditors still demand payment. The solution that's surrendered: sovereignty. 1881. After 6 years of negotiations, the Decree of Muharrem is announced. The nominal debt is reduced from £191 million to £106 million. A 44% haircut. Annual debt service drops from $12.7 million to $2.7 million. It looks like relief, but the price is sovereignty. The decree establishes the Ottoman Public Debt Administration. Europeans call it the OPDA. In Turkish, it's Duyun u Umumiye. The organization exists to collect Ottoman taxes and transfer them directly to European bondholders. The council includes representatives from Britain, France, Germany, Austria, Italy, the Netherlands, and Ottoman creditors. One representative from the Ottoman government itself. Foreign powers control the board. The OPDA receives authority over the empire's most lucrative revenue sources. Monopolies on salt and tobacco go entirely to European control. Taxes on stamps, alcohol, fishing, and silk are assigned to the OPDA. Customs duties in key regions, revenue from shops and stores. If these sources prove insufficient, the OPDA gets claims on foreign indemnities paid to the Ottomans by Balkan states. The OPDA becomes the largest bureaucracy in the empire. It employs 5,000 officials by the 1880s, 9,000 by 1914, more than the Ottoman Finance Ministry. These employees collect revenue across Ottoman territory and send it directly to European banks. The Sultan's government never touches the money. The system works exactly as designed. OPDA managed revenues grow from 1.22 million liras in 1884 to 2.98 million by 1910. Collection efficiency dramatically improves. Smuggling decreases. Tax evasion becomes harder. The OPDA implements double-entry bookkeeping, formal budgets, and systematic accounting. Modern financial management replaces Ottoman corruption and chaos. By 1914, the OPDA controls 1/4 to 1/3 of all Ottoman government revenue. Some estimates put it higher. The organization finances railway construction, industrial projects, and infrastructure development. It acts as intermediary for European companies seeking investment opportunities. Foreign firms gain ownership of mineral deposits and forests near railway lines. European capital floods in, but it flows through European-controlled institutions to benefit European interests. The Ottoman government gains something from the arrangement. After 1881, the empire can borrow again. New loans require OPDA approval. The organization's management reassures creditors. Interest rates drop to 4 to 5% from the previous 6 to 12. The empire takes new loans. The debt grows again. By 1914, total foreign debt exceeds 160 million liras despite all the restructuring. The price of dependence. The pattern is clear now. The Ottoman Empire needed money for the Crimean War. It borrowed from European creditors. It used the money for military expenses and palace construction instead of productive investment. Revenue didn't grow. The debt did. When crisis came, the empire couldn't pay. European powers imposed a solution that transferred financial control to foreign administrators. The OPDA isn't military occupation. No foreign troops garrison Constantinople to enforce debt collection. But the effect is similar. Europeans control Ottoman tax revenue. They dictate financial policy. They monitor government spending. The Sultan retains political authority. He has no economic independence. The system benefits Europe immensely. British and French bondholders receive steady returns. German and Italian investors gain market access. European companies secure lucrative contracts. The OPDA facilitates technology transfer and infrastructure development. Railways expand. Ports modernize. Telegraph lines connect cities. Some Ottoman territories benefit from improved administration and reduced corruption in OPDA-controlled sectors. But the fundamental relationship is exploitation. The Ottoman Empire borrows money. Europeans collect taxes to repay the loans with interest. The cycle perpetuates itself. New loans require OPDA oversight. More revenue sources transfer to European control. By the early 20th century, the empire has modern financial management. It also has permanent foreign control of its most profitable tax sources. Ottoman reformers recognize the problem. The Young Turk movement views the OPDA as sovereignty erosion. They see foreign control of imperial finances as humiliation, but they can't change it. The empire depends on European loans. It needs OPDA approval to access credit markets. Breaking with the system means financial isolation. Continuing means accepting foreign domination. The First World War finally destroys the arrangement. The Ottoman Empire allies with Germany. Britain and France become enemies. The OPDA continues operating through the war, despite the belligerent status of its controlling powers. The absurd situation continues until the empire's collapse. The debt that outlived the empire. 1918. The Ottoman Empire surrenders. The government dissolves. The territory is partitioned, but the debt remains. European creditors still demand payment. Someone has to pay the bonds. The Treaty of Lausanne in 1923 addresses the issue. The new Turkish Republic inherits responsibility for Ottoman debt. Negotiations at the Paris Conference in 1925 establish terms. Turkey agrees to pay 62% of pre-1912 debt and 77% of post-1912 debt. The percentages reflect territorial losses. Successor states should shoulder proportionate burden. 1933. The Paris Treaty reduces Turkey's obligation further. The Republic agrees to pay 84.6 million liras out of 161.3 million remaining. The Depression has made full payment impossible. Creditors accept reduced terms. May 25, 1954. Turkey makes the final payment on Ottoman debt. 100 years after Sultan Abdülmecid signed the first foreign loan agreement, a century of debt service, an entire lifetime of payments. The bonds issued in 1854 to fight the Crimean War are finally retired in 1954. The empire that borrowed the money is gone. The Sultan who signed the contracts is dead. The British and French empires that made the loans have collapsed, but the debt persisted through everything: wars, revolutions, the dissolution of empires, the creation of new nations. The bonds survived. The lesson: nobody learned. The Ottoman debt crisis shows how financial dependence becomes political control. The empire needed money. It borrowed from foreign creditors. It spent the money unproductively. When it couldn't repay, creditors imposed terms that transferred sovereignty without conquest. This pattern repeats throughout history. Spain with American silver, the Ottomans with European loans, Latin American nations in the 20th century, developing countries in the 21st. The details change. The mechanism remains constant. Borrow money. Spend it on consumption instead of investment. Watch debt grow faster than revenue. Default. Accept foreign control of domestic policy in exchange for restructuring. The Ottoman Empire had choices. It could have refused foreign loans and accepted military defeat. It could have borrowed, but invested in productive capacity. It could have defaulted completely and faced the consequences. Instead, it chose access to capital without discipline, short-term spending without long-term planning, political survival at the cost of economic independence. The OPDA worked efficiently. It collected revenue. It repaid creditors. It imposed financial discipline. It facilitated development. But it served European interests. Ottoman subjects worked. Ottoman agriculture produced. Ottoman taxes funded everything. Europeans managed the system and extracted the profits. The empire that once besieged Vienna ended with foreign accountants controlling its treasury. The Sultan who once commanded millions became a figurehead, watching Europeans collect his taxes. The The state that once defined power became a case study in how debt transforms into domination. This is the empire that borrowed from its enemies, that confused credit with capital, that discovered sovereignty has a price, and that paid that price for a century.